Matt.
And I'm Guy. And this is your home for everything Alberta Independence, broadcasting live 6 days a week, twice a day, Monday through Friday at 12 noon and 5 p.m., which you're watching now. On Saturdays, we broadcast once live, and that's at 5 p.m. And every Sunday, we try to release a pre-recorded interview relating to Alberta independence.
Yes. And
and I will say we don't put, never mind.
First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. Please do remember to subscribe. It really helps us out. Also, hit the like button because we are trying to get to 100 likes per stream because it ends up helping the stream in the back end afterwards as well. We try to read all your comments during the stream. We do read them after each segment. We have segments, but we do prioritize super chats, which is the best way to help us out if you feel so inclined. And we pause the whole show for super chats, read them out, interact, and then go back to whatever we were doing.
Well, and I will say our dog might be a little wild today. Nat accidentally dropped a bunch of Fruit Loops on the floor, so we'll see how much of a sugar rush she has.
And yes, I'm a child. I eat Fruit Loops, but the teeny tiny boxes sometimes when I need sugar. But that's about it. Okay, let's start saying hi to all of you. John Odd says, 2005, Danny Williams hauled down the Canadian flags. His approval went up 80%. That should tell you something. Imagine if Danielle Smith did the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's politicians in the EU taking down the EU flag right now in favor of sovereignty for their country, and they're getting a lot of support for it.
Michael Drader, hello, Michael, says, game on, nothing but love to Alberta patriots, especially Mr. and Mrs. Albertan, who lost their garage in a fire earlier today, potentially arson. And yes, we discussed that if arson, horrible, disgusting incident, if it was arson, and otherwise
it definitely was arson, it looks like, and I don't know why
because legally I don't know what the legalities are and stuff, but
our heart does go out to them. I hope there is a fundraiser and we can recoup everything that they lost. This is horrible, tragic, and there seems to be targeting going on, not just with them, but with a lot of people right now, whether it's Igor, the Fringe, them. Also, the Centurion project was targeted. So it looks like they're starting to turn the volume up.
Yes, and I think this is literally just the beginning of what we might see. Troglodyte says, hello again, folks. Hello. John Odd says, hello, all. And Troglodyte says, power was out for 6 hours today in commie hellhole, Vancouver Island, BC. Apparently, some guy was high and took the police car on a chase, taking out a power pole. Sounds like it. Sounds like British Columbia. Sounds like Victoria.
Well, that will do it, a power pole for sure, especially in rural areas.
But I hope it was restored and that they restored properly as well.
Yeah.
Lal Norman says, what a day. Yes. And Edward says, double sound problems.
Oh, double sound.
Does anybody else hear us double or no? Oh, it was Edward's. It was on Edward's end. Morris 007 says, Hola Nat y Guy, catch the news. Albertan's garage mysteriously burned down. The fun is starting to escalate.
Yeah, and we talked about it in depth this morning. We'll kind of go over it again. But as there are updates for fundraisers and things like that, we will definitely have opening segments that we profile that.
Jay Smoke says, who burned Al's garage? Don't know yet. I'm guessing.
Well, on this morning's show, what I advise is we need to kind of get ready for this, especially if you're outspoken and live in Alberta. If you have a vehicle, cameras on the vehicle, both front and back, would be a good idea, as well as on your business or home, because I don't think this is going to be an isolated incident. I could see their repeat incidents, and we want to get these people on camera so we can press charges and set the precedent that we will push back.
Exactly. And that Albertans help each other out in the end, and the true patriots are actually there for each other. Canadian Spider-Man says, good sunny afternoon. Hello, says, it's my 54th birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
And I'm stoked about the Alberta prospects and what BC can do once it pulls its head out of a horse's behind, I will say. It will take a while, I would say, coming from there, but hopefully, go.
The only hope, I think, for BC is if you get the interior or the north to separate. In their current political system, they're not going to vote as a whole. They have too much consolidation of a vote in Victoria and Vancouver, and it seems like they like these commie policies, period. After Alberta, I'm really hoping Saskatchewan goes next, possibly Quebec after that. The Northwest Territories, as well as the Yukon, have a fairly easy path because they don't have as many hurdles in front of them because they're territories and not regular provinces.
Yes. And Al Norman says, I'm almost done today. Good. My day is mostly just starting, but I have long days usually.
Well, we're halfway through.
Yes. Primors 007 says no details on who burned it down, but there are theories. And I can think of my own theories as well. James B says, greetings, comrades. Greetings. Thank you for being here. Ghost of a Chance says, call the cops. Oops, perhaps not. Charlotte says that the police refuse to do anything, options get limited.
They're already starting to refuse to do things in a lot of different situations. We had some of our listeners tell us about incidents they have, which the police are refusing to prosecute. Those times and those incidents on the side of the roads with the canvassers, we need prosecutions for those as well. Otherwise, it sends the message that this kind of behavior is okay, and it's absolutely not at this point.
And options do continue to be, and we also suggested it in our noon stream, that if you have video, if you have evidence, also giving it to either content creators or people that can help dissipate it so it becomes a story in itself.
Yeah, we need to try to get things.
They won't listen.
We need to try to get things on camera like the canvassers did, so we actually have evidence that we can give to the police. If they refuse to prosecute at this point, we need to go to independent media, social content creators that will kind of put that out and then report on the fact that the police are refusing to prosecute these cases.
Yeah.
We have to put pressure on them in very imaginatory ways. This is also why we need to put pressure on Danielle Smith. And Monday, with all these signatures being submitted, we need a big turnout and a big presence of a lot of people out there, because this is the politest way to let Danielle Smith know we have the signatures and we have the support behind the signatures as well.
John Holt says city and rural divide is real, and it gets more real and real with each day that passes. It is very, very evident, for example, between Victoria and Vancouver and the rest of BC, which isn't as insane or not insane at all. So we see the insanity concentrate in cities, but also some of it has started to spread out, unfortunately, towards the more, I wouldn't say urban, rural, but like urban rural areas as well.
Well, let's stay focused on Alberta here for a second, because we covered a story this morning where 92% of a lot of rural communities came out to sign this petition through their local canvassers and things like that. It's the cities where we're going to need to really put an effort in to get the people that are on the fence or on the other side to convince them to come out and either vote for Alberta independence or to not vote against it and to stay home on the day of October 19th.
Yes. Primors 007 says Dexter Morgan had a way of dealing with the ones the police didn't. But now let's go into the Alberta Stay Free section and what's going on with the campaigning as it starts to ramp up as well.
Absolutely.
Sweet home Alberta, where the roots run deep and the money trees grow.
And starting with, hold on.
Well, and I put this first story in here because it's very important. This is not just turning in the signatures. This is a way to really say we have a presence. There are a lot of people behind this. We want these waters unmuddied, whether it's the ideological judge that put the stay on the petition. Hopefully she'll take that stay off. But if not, Danielle Smith has opened a secondary door with the other petition. We want one of these two petitions to go forward, preferably Stay Free Alberta. And I firmly believe they're probably going to have enough signatures to beat the other petition, which really sends a message.
Rise of Alberta says, quote, join Mitch Sylvester at Elections Alberta's office on May 4th at 12:30 p.m. as the petitions are officially handed in. This is a major moment for Alberta's future. Show up, stand together, let them see the strength behind this movement.
And if you're able to make it, you should be there. A lot of the leadership is going to be there. A lot of content creators from Alberta's independence is going to be there. We're going to post pictures, videos. We want to make a hubbub of this thing, because this is really, again, how we put the pressure to make sure this question gets on the October 19th referendum.
Exactly.
Which is really the founding of a nation. It's far more than a referendum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the key ways to frame it as well for those that might be doubting still, or when you're having those conversations and engaging in those debates and giving the reasoning, saying it is a lot more than a referendum, and the outcome of it can decide not only your future, but generations' futures to come.
Absolutely.
But then this from the National Post, quote, two of Alberta's biggest unions advertised in favor of a petition to keep the province in Canada, spending more than 40 times that of the organizations that backed Alberta's pro-separatist or independence effort.
Yeah, we covered this a little bit on the morning show as well, but they're going to have a lot more money. They've already outspent us 40 times. This is going to continue to be the case, especially as the federal government starts weighing in more and more. This could completely backfire on them, though. If we do have an ideological judge that keeps this stay up, which would be horrible and completely wrong, at least we have Tommy Lukaszik's question there that Danielle Smith has indicated that could be the question for the ballot if she's not able to get the stay free question.
And hopefully being able to unmuddy it and make it more clear if it needs to to reach the Clarity Act threshold. But
and she's already indicated that she would clarify the question because the question that he submitted does not meet the clarity standard.
Yeah, with regards to the constitutional referendum matter.
Absolutely.
But I will also say we do see, and we've talked about it also, I think yesterday, that the union heads versus the union members continue to have that same divide and that same balkanization that we see, I think, in the general public, where those at the top want things that are very, very different to the actual workers and the ones that they're supposed to be representing.
Yeah, and it's not just unions against the union heads against the workers. We're seeing a divide there. We've seen that in the United States as well. Very often, the union heads are now taking payoffs from NGOs, or they're becoming ideologically captured from big money coming from government, saying they have to have different standards and certain protocols in there, such as DEI, if they want these handouts. And the union members, a lot of them are fed up. I won't say all of them, but they're starting to wake up to this. In the United States, they've already kind of woken up to this. Mm-hmm. But there's also the First Nations and the First Nations heads, which there's a huge divide there as well as Alberta and National Canada. So it seems to be that there's almost three different segments of this Alberta independence movement kind of bubbling to the top here.
But also bubbling to the top, Western Standard says, quote, drama at Alberta Independence event as Elections Alberta files legal action against advocacy group. And I do agree here with Bonnie Makel saying when Elections Alberta, a supposedly nonpartisan organization, pulls a stunt like this, it should seriously give a person pause to wonder what kind of country Canada has become.
Yeah, and you can click into the picture so we can see it for everybody.
Hold on.
And give them that just a second.
Because when it's an article, I have to wait for it to load properly. Okay, so yes, drama at Alberta Independence event as Elections Alberta files legal action against advocacy group.
Yeah, and they sent 8 police cars out here. They did not need 8. They needed simply 1 police car. They didn't even need that 1 police car because nothing was actually done here. There's going to be a bit of an investigation. We'll have to see what happens, and then we'll kind of give updates on it as it comes. Information still rolling out about this. Mm-hmm. I might have got a little bit ahead of myself this morning, but we'll see what happens.
And yes, from freedomcalendar.net as well. And if you don't follow Freedom Calendar, go follow him because he has been and continues to be able to be at the events, recording them for anybody that is not able to attend or join. And it is very interesting to see all of these events and being able to do so now in the 21st century.
And we will be reaching out to Freedom Calendar. I'm hoping we can get an interview with him. He's starting to be on camera a little bit more and more. So a great guy, and he has been absolutely crucial for this grassroots movement to get the messaging out from the ground.
Yes, and says, quote, Centurion Project Town Hall responds to Aaron Week's question and Marty's point of view on harassment against canvassers, live streamed yesterday, April 29th, 2026.
Yeah, and this is the whole stream, and I brought this up because this is the Centurion Project. This is actually one of my favorite groups that have popped up. They're trying to not only create leaders, but make sure we got a very unique Get Out the Vote campaign, as well as they're working to not only develop those leaders, but civic engagement after Alberta does get its independence. So it's a real long-term vision here. I really like the people they had on stage. While Marty was talking, that's when the police came into this event on the side, and there was a little bit of a hubbub. I highly recommend going to watch the whole thing, or at least some of the highlights. We'll play just the beginning here for you.
So my question is, why are you guys so opposed to dialogue? Everybody who seems to disagree with you is exactly labeled as a liberal. I'm not a liberal. I'm a conservative.
Guys, let him speak. That's okay.
Marty specifically, we've talked about this before.
Max, can we restart the clock?
Yeah, let's let him
To
speak.
give him his full 30 seconds. Folks, we have a person here
And pause it?
is
And this, again, was a grassroots event. The people on stage were talking to a lot of people in the audience before. Marty offers to talk to this gentleman after. It's good when we have disagreements and we can kind of hash it out, especially in person.
necessarily on the same page as the rest of us, and that's okay. I'm personally glad he's here. Can we give him a round of applause? And now we're going to give him his full 30 seconds uninterrupted. If you feel the need to interrupt, I suggest you step outside.
Thank you. So,
Sorry. Max, can you restart the clock one more time? Sorry about that. Okay.
Give him the max time, okay?
yeah, no worries. Sorry, so the sentiment seems to be that if you disagree with independence, then you're just automatically written off as a liberal. And what I was going to say is, Marty, specifically online, you keep saying that I'm harassing canvassers in public. I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm trying to be involved in my community and have dialogue. And I can see why you guys are struggling so hard because we aren't having any dialogue. Charlie Kirk said, once we stop talking, that's when violence happens. I think you've experienced that yourself.
The panelist will respond.
Yeah, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I do think that what you do is harassment. But that's it. Otherwise, you're here. We let you in. You're free to talk. If you want to have a conversation with me afterwards, I'll have a conversation. You're going to accuse me of not having conversations. I'm here on stage, and before this meeting, I talked to anybody that wanted to talk to me. So you should look inwardly at yourself, man. The reason that people don't want to have a conversation with you is perhaps because of you. That's all.
Yeah, and I will say this. A lot of people are coming out to harass canvassers to try to have these debates, but they're approaching people with a real chip on their shoulder. If you watch somebody like John talking to Albertans, he comes there very non-aggressively, gives a lot of concessions, wants these people to open up, doesn't engage in this head-to-head blood sport type debate. He really wants people to open up so he can get their side, give them his side, and not necessarily win them over that day, but maybe plant a seed. And I think a lot of people that are coming out to these canvassing stations or were coming out to these canvassing stations to have these debates weren't coming
in good faith.
In good faith. And I like the fact that we're having these in-person meetings now so we can get air out our differences and grievances and things like that. And hopefully persuade some of these people to come over, because it's not just all liberals that are against Alberta independence. There are some national conservatives and things like that that I just don't think have done that much research. And if we can get to them, that's one more vote for independence on October 19th.
And also, I think in general, in the world, we have forgotten about what actual civil discourse is. And a lot of people start and lead through feelings instead of through their thoughts and being able to fully explain what they mean when they are approaching someone to have that civil discourse and debate. So let's go back to that. Hold on 1 second. Thank you so much to Stephen Jensen for the $10 super chat saying phone lists are what they're using from Canada Post, available online, new version of that old thing called the phone book. They used to have names, numbers, and addresses of everyone in town.
Yeah, and I hope that's the case, and that's what I think it is. But Corey Morgan made a video. He went a little bit in depth like this, and he said he's going to kind of wait to make his judgment and things like that. But I will say this, the Centurion Project has an absolute fantastic idea on how to get out the vote. So I hope this isn't any kind of roadblock and we can go forward on every level, because what the Centurion Project is doing with the get out the vote is great, but they're doing a lot of things with building leaders and creating civic engagement from civilians that normally wouldn't engage in politics. And I really like the strategies that are coming out of that organization.
But we also said, and I also said on the noon stream, that we are seeing a lot of different organizations or groups. And I think that diversification and the fact that they can hit and get at different people and different segments of society and with different types of civil discourse and with different types of examples and motivation to actually achieve independence, that is important too, because the more diversified it can be in the actual terms of diversification, not diversity, the more effective it can be, because they only have one or two things going on right now: the For Alberta, For Canada thing, the Forever Canadian, and then the crazies on the outskirts that aren't really part of anything but want to go and be annoying at people and at canvassers and now at meetings as well. So I think that is also a good thing. And I see a lot of people saying, well, no, these people shouldn't be able to speak, or they don't listen to this organization. I think it's more effective to have more points of view fighting for the same goal, which is Alberta independence, but doing it in different ways.
Well, absolutely. And I brought this up on the morning show, but with this Marty clip right here, I think this is a good time to bring it up again. The gentleman John Bolton interviewed
From Renew Alberta.
From Renew Alberta. I completely disagree with him, but he makes good points that could sway, I think, national conservatives that are against independence that live in Alberta, possibly. And that's why I think some of his arguments are really good, and he should have a voice, even though I disagree with going back to the way the country was before Justin Trudeau's father. I think you're going to still have a lot of the mistakes that are pre-built into Canada form again if we go that direction.
And we continue to see it in other Commonwealth nations as well, and that that system might just not be the best system that there is.
Well, it's not the best system, and I don't want to see it go that way. I'm not going to mince my words. That being said, having him kind of appeal to national conservatives that live inside Alberta, like the gentleman that was just on stage with Marty, I think could be a game changer. And maybe not to get that gentleman to vote for independence, but to maybe have him stay home that day and not vote against Alberta independence.
And to also open the dialogue and discourse.
Absolutely. And I think there's a large enough mass of people that don't want to go that route that I'm not fearing that route too much. So giving him a bit of a voice so we can sway people that are on the fence that like those arguments, I think is a good idea.
Yes, but also from Rise of Alberta saying, quote, do you believe the narrative that investment would flee an independent Alberta? That's the investor's dilemma.
Well, absolutely not. But investment is definitely fleeing Canada en masse right now. And the level of restriction that is on Alberta is stopping any investment from coming into the province. National Canada also has Alberta landlocked, but the amount of natural resources that Alberta has access to, not just oil, but mining rights and minerals as well as a lot of other industry. If Alberta is deregulated, you're going to see massive amounts of money flow in from private investment. And really the APP document where they game planned a lot of the statistics out for the economic future of Alberta, I think was very, very conservative and on the low end because it didn't take account for a lot of the private investment that would flow in from Canada and the United States and the rest of the world directly into Alberta.
And exactly in this picture, we already know and see that investment has already started fleeing Canada and has been for a while, and we're seeing the impacts of that in itself within the economy. So why not have the opportunity to actually see if investors, once you take away the insane regulations that the federal government continues to want to put upon them and upon Canadian industries, maybe do decide to stay, maybe do decide to invest because it becomes a lot more feasible and tenable for them to do so.
Yeah, the future is bright when it comes to Alberta. We just need to take the regulations shackles off, and the only way to do that is independence, I think.
Exactly. But now we'll go into your comments and then we'll head into Alberta Politics, the Alberta Politics section. Sven de God Gronshow says, cities live in fear constantly. They're easy to manipulate with the NDP, etc. And they have, I think, instilled that fear in them. And also a difference that we used to talk about a lot between cities and rural areas is that if you look at it under this lens, cities are a bit more dominated by females because females are not able to do much of the work outside of cities. They work in HR nowadays and other things that require a city infrastructure and environment, and where women can actually feel protected and safe, but then they vote for more protection, more safety, more impositions.
Women vote for security, men vote for freedom and independence in general. Women that do vote for independence and freedom typically are married women that are aware of the significance of independence and freedom because of their husbands as well.
Or are outside of the cities as well. James B.
And I'll kind of go a little bit more into that. And that is to say, it's not only that it's easy to instill fear in people that live in cities, it's easy to propagandize a very condensed population. And in the rural countryside, there's more of a sense of community as well, where people get together and have in-person conversations with their neighbors and friends.
Exactly. James B. says, can you imagine how many of the Liberal thugs will be there, RCMP?
Well, on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's going to be interesting what happens that day. I hope everybody has their phones and are prepared to film whatever happens.
But also being the bigger people and staying as civil and as the bigger people.
There's no reason to be the bigger people. Nothing violent's going to happen.
I know, but that's what I mean. Like the RCMP, we've seen them before do this during the Freedom Convoy.
We're not at that point.
I know.
We're not at that point yet.
But still. So Steven Jensen says, Tyson Rohovich responded to my post, says it's not targeted. He does the slow rolls in Edmonton. I asked him how he knows this. No response yet. Okay. I'm guessing the Mr. Albertan thing.
Yeah.
Troglodyte says, hey, happy birthday again, Spider-Man. Yes, happy birthday, Canadian Spider-Man again. James B says, Monday at Elections Alberta. Yes. Sven says the government can also reword the question. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing. I'm glad she's opened the door. So it's going to be interesting what this judge does, because I was shocked she even put the stay on in the first place. I think her play is going to be just to continue to stay it until after the point where she's reached that critical date where we can no longer make the October 19th ballot. And this is why it's important to put polite pressure on Danielle Smith to make sure that at least the other question gets on that ballot.
Jay Smoke says, why would the RCMP be there? It's the city jurisdiction.
Why is the RCMP in a lot of places?
Elections Alberta.
Yeah. I think the RCMP is going to continue to pop up in very interesting spots around Alberta over the next 6 months.
True. Escape from Canada says, hello from Puerto Vallarta. Hello. Hopefully it's not too hot there because it's getting hot here close to Mexico City. Jay Smoke says, so you're just speculating. You have no real reason, though maybe you had a reason. Thought maybe you had a reason.
For what?
I'm guessing the RCMP being there. I don't know.
Yeah, the RCMP is going to, I truly believe, be there because there's going to be a large coalition of people there.
Troglodyte says cities are also a lot more reliant on government. Exactly, that too. Because they created this infrastructure that makes itself dependent upon government and upon this safety and security, and sometimes even causing a lot of the issues that then they can fix.
Well, and that's why they love to have a lot of newcomers and immigrants migrate to these big cities, because it's easy to propagandize them and get them thinking on the wavelength that the federal government wants them thinking on and voting the way that they want them voting.
Edward says, a eye cake for Spidey. And Steven Jensen, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, saying RCMP K Division is just down the street from Elections Alberta on Kingsway Avenue and 109th Street, 6 blocks away. So they're close. Maybe that's why they would be there.
It keeps messing with me because Kingsway keeps coming up with a lot of the stuff. And I actually grew up on a street called Kingsway within Burnaby when I was a kid in British Columbia.
Okay, so let's go into Alberta politics, right?
Yeah.
And then
Alberta
I'll continue
politics.
reading your comments. Thank you.
He doesn't discuss federal politics. He only concerns himself with Alberta's independence.
And starting with, hold on, Marty up north saying, quote, how the Canada Strong Fund will work, how it actually works. Initial capital is provided by money printing. The fund invests in a handful of politically connected companies like, oh, I don't know, Brookfield. Those investments generate fat dividends, management fees, royalties, interest, and capital gains flowing straight to liberal insiders and connected asset managers. Canadian taxpayers eat the losses, pay the interest on debt, and get stuck with the bill.
Well, I think this might be how it works in the short term, but I think there is a completely secondary long-term plan. And I think this sovereign wealth fund is to really capture a lot of the profits from natural resources. And I think they're going to combine this with the 30 by 30 program to federalize natural resources and take a lot of sovereignty away from the provinces. And this is why Alberta independence is so special. We have the ability to save the natural resources, keep them for the citizens so we can build a better life for those citizens. I think if the Canadian federal government gets a hold of this, nothing's going to be done with the money, but it's going to be put into global causes and put into the pockets of Mark Carney's globalist buddies.
And also it's funny because it's not like we haven't seen this type of scheme before. And I will continue to suggest, and eventually I will do a deep dive video on it. This is basically exactly how the Canadian Pension Plan investments and that whole corporation works, and how it's been managed for now a lot of years, for almost 20 years, I would say, and how they've lost a lot of those investments that they've made wrongly trying to manage the assets, but they to be doing better in a market just by themselves.
There's a ton of framework being set up over here, and then some more framework set up over here. So I think they can really federalize natural resources and the profits from those natural resources. They're trying to say that's not what's happening, but these systems can be easily combined to take the sovereignty away from the provinces. It's going to be very interesting what happens here. Alberta has the chance to break free right now, but I feel for a lot of these other provinces that aren't going to see this coming and are going to be blindsided because they're just not paying attention.
Mm-hmm. But also, from Rise of Alberta, quote, Alberta officially launches the 120-kilometer speed limit on Highway 2. Question, how fast should the limit be in an independent Alberta?
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. We needed to raise it a little bit. There's long traveling distance between cities and towns in Alberta. Marty up north was on the Western Standard today, and he said he had the opportunity to drive the new highway and the new speed limit, and it was absolutely fantastic. So...
And I have a story about this, but 1 second. Thank you so much, Stephen Jensen, for the $2 super chat saying fund manager estimated to make around $2 billion per year. Look at how much the head of the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Fund and thing makes a year as well. It's all planned.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Stephen Jensen, for that. And back to this, as you were saying.
You can go ahead.
I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So as I've said before, I did a road trip through Alberta, funnily enough, and for some reason the car we rented, because we needed a bigger car, was an American car, and it was all in miles per hour. However, I drove most of the way because I like driving in highways, and at one point we were going down a straight. It was a pretty straight part of the highway, and I kept thinking, I'm going pretty fast, but I'm going the limit. Like, what's going on? And then as we were barreling down the highway, I realized that I was going miles per hour, not kilometers per hour. And I was going a lot faster than I should have been. Luckily, most of my family members were asleep, so they didn't notice and nothing happened. But that reminded me of that story.
Oh, absolutely.
Always check what your car is actually reading, the distance in, and your speed in. But
well, and when Alberta does get its independence, there's going to need to be high-speed train and a rail system between between Calgary and Edmonton, most definitely, and possibly even to have that train to extend into the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But Jason Levine says, quote, good morning, folks. It was a late night for the Levines, so we will see you on Friday. Here's a video from last night's event in Edmonton. Yes, it's true. The Edmonton police showed up, but that didn't stop the event.
Yeah, and this is the full event here. So if you do want to watch it, this was that Centurion event, and Jason Levine's been very, very busy. We're hoping to get an interview with him. He's got a message in his Xbox. He probably hasn't had
Xbox.
His X mailbox. He is one of the busier people. I mean, he's running a podcast. He's doing a lot of in-person events. I watch his Tea and Coffee podcast on a daily basis. It's absolutely fantastic if you haven't checked it out.
Yes, but there it is. And again, thanks to Freedom Calendar for being there and being able to record most, if not all, of these events.
Well, it's not just about recording it. He's recording it in high quality with high quality audio. So it's actually bearable to sit through. So thank you for that.
Yes. But now we'll go back into your comments and then onwards. Jay Smoke says, Ottawa and I'm guessing Ontario have a different contract in Ontario. The RCMP do not have that same contract in the city of Edmonton.
Okay,
There's a little bit infighting about police right now on the chat.
And I know less than I know more about what the RCMP is allowed and not allowed to do inside of Alberta. So, but I don't like the RCMP presence there. I would rather see Alberta sheriffs. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Edward says, I love Nat stories. See? He always tells me, make the show faster. Stop talking so much.
No, I don't.
And the people like it when I go off
I
script.
know they
Not
do.
that we have a script, but off the stories that we're supposed to be covering. Jay Smoke says, the Wilson Kenney debate won't be streamed, right? No, not the first one, because it will be at a private event for the Civitas Institute. I think I was looking into it earlier.
But are they going to film it and put it out? How do you know that? I didn't know that.
Because it's a private event. It's a ticketed private event. It's part of their conference.
Hopefully they film it. They should be filming it.
They should be, but I honestly don't think they will, at least not that day. And I don't think they'll release it afterwards because it's part of their own conference where you need a ticket. I looked into it.
A lot of conferences will put it out the next day, but maybe Jason Kenney only agreed to the debate if there was no video of it. No video evidence. It didn't actually happen. Hopefully people have phones and they're going to be able to record there. That's going to be a freaking shame if that thing is not put out for the general public public consumption. I'm literally willing to pay $20 to watch that thing.
And interestingly enough, for some reason, I can see it on my phone, but I can't see it on our YouTube stream or the how I bring chats up. But 300 miles per hour, Marty says, YouTube or Canada is messing with your feed. Well, wouldn't be surprised about that. But again, and it's interesting because I can't bring it up on here either. So
Wait, what do you mean? But it looks
what do
like
you
it's
mean
running,
messing with?
It looks like it's running smooth on my phone here. I have it on my phone so I can check the audio if I need to and see what the visual is coming out on the final stream. It looks okay to me. Let us know if the stream starts messing up or the audio does.
Yes.
And we'll just keep going.
Yes. Hold on. Escape from Canada says, can you please explain why all the truth channels like yours refuse to acknowledge my previous comment? Have you been threatened? What comment?
What's the comment? I'm more than willing to acknowledge it.
Oh, here. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Except it doesn't show up because YouTube or Canada doesn't want us to read this. Escape from Canada says, RCMP are under the control of Beijing. An agreement was signed between the RCMP and the CCP in January this year. We actually talked about this. We've actually covered this story multiple times, not just in the military aspect, but also within police and other police jurisdictions as well, like the VPD, the Vancouver Police Department.
Now, we cover what the CCP infiltration is with inside Alberta, which is shocking. You expect that to be the one province that maybe could keep it out. That's not the case. They seem to be targeting Alberta, so much so that a lot of the natural resource sites and sectors are guarded by Chinese security companies, which is really just a front for the CCP. They carry what are considered to be illegal weapons for Canadian citizens, but I guess it's completely legal when the CCP's guarding a natural resource site, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm very, very hard on the Chinese infiltration of not only Canada, but Alberta. This used to be one of the main subjects we used to cover.
Yes. And we were being throttled.
Even though there's massive censorship of it, because every time I would make a video of it, it definitely would be throttled.
Yeah.
But no, we're not trying to read your questions, and we always bring up articles regarding China, Canada, China,
And
Alberta as
infiltration.
well,
Yeah.
because this are some of the biggest reasons why Alberta, number one, needs its independence, but number two, needs to get that influence the hell out of Alberta when it's its own country.
And I will say, because probably, I'm just speculating, because you probably wrote CCP and RCMP maybe in the same sentence, YouTube didn't like it. Or the system that lets me bring up the chats didn't bring it up. But
Yeah.
sorry about that. Smile to life every day. Thank you so much. And again, I love your username says, I wanted to say being part of Alberta's farmers market, socializing with vendors and other Albertans, it has been very interesting and promising for our future of Alberta independence. And that's a hopeful message. We need more of those as well. But I'm glad to see and to hear that you have been engaging and that those debates and civic engagement and talking to each other has been happening, and that it's interesting also that you're seeing it as a positive as well, that you're getting positive feedback from speaking about that, about independence.
And I definitely think there needs to be a big effort put towards small family farms, remigrating people from cities into the countryside where they can produce their own food, and then having organized farmers markets where small local farmers can go there and sell directly to the people. And there should be benefits to that. No taxes on anything that's being sold directly to farm to people, because that is the healthiest way to eat.
Yes. And also looking back into regenerative farming and giving the people, even the people in the cities, that opportunity and that outlook on being able to do so, because I'm sure a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people would want to be able to farm, but they don't even know or have the outlook on how to start doing it. And an independent Alberta could push people towards that. Stephen Jensen, thank you so much for the $2 super chat, says Jason Levine post-elections Alberta statement that no data breach has occurred.
Whoa.
Thank you for the update. And thank you for the $5 super chat as well.
Oh, you said $2 super chat.
Oh, sorry, $5 super chat. Sorry.
Thank you. We
That
really
was on me.
appreciate that.
Yes.
And I will say Freedom Honey came on the stream in the afternoon and left a comment. And yeah, honey being produced locally is the best kind of honey you can get. There is a lot of corruption within the honey industry itself. That's been kind of trickling out even through the mainstream media lately. Yeah. So a lot of small family farms, local cattle producers, people that are producing honey locally. We need to invest into the people of Alberta, not large scale corporate I would say industrial size farming or and stuff like that. That can be there as a backup resource, but all the benefits and tax incentives should be geared towards small family farms.
And we need pollination. And as we said earlier on the stream before, no pollination, no food. But do you want to look into the whole Jason Levine post-election Alberta statement that no data breach has occurred, or no? Because that's what Stephen Jensen.
Yeah, let's look into it.
Okay, should I look into it? We can look into it later and then bring it up tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we'll bring it up on tomorrow morning's episode. We broadcast.
thank you.
we broadcast twice a day, so that will be for tomorrow morning. I'll probably put it in breaking news. Thanks for bringing that up to us as well.
Troglodyte says, print money, increase inflation. Exactly. That's the plan. Jay Smoke says, agree, hope it's recorded. All Albertans should see it. Yes!
Well,
but because they're doing it behind a ticketed event and it is one of their conferences, I mean, I guess that gives them the cover to say, no, it's only for people that pay to be there.
Well, and I will say, if this is authentic and there was no breach, something needs to be done against Tommy Lukasik. He was sending out emails, making accusations that 100% aren't true. Yeah. I mean, maybe he's trying to sabotage his own question because he wants to make sure that thing doesn't get on the ballot. Because there's going to be a lot of backlash against that guy if the judge keeps staying the stay free question and then Danielle Smith opens the door to his question.
Stephen Johnson says it's posted on his X account. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I'll look into it as you continue to talk about this.
Oh, just bring up the next story if we can.
Oh, but we're not in that section yet.
Oh, that's fine. Just bring up the next story. I don't have any. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Bring up the next section if you can.
Okay, now we're going into Alberta Personalities. For some reason, you got all twitchy.
But they need to understand that Albertans are done. We're leaving, and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
Starting with, and interestingly, this will make sense as soon as we explain more into it, but Dallas Brody saying, quote, instead of focusing on academics, the Vancouver School Board, VSB 39, and other school boards in BC renamed schools to new Indigenous names that cannot be pronounced by British Columbia.
And after this clip, I'll let you look that up. I just needed an article to talk about and have something to talk about.
Okay. Do you want to go into why Dallas Brody is in Alberta Personalities? Or no?
Just play the clip and then look for the article if you can. That would be much appreciated.
He gets a bit nervous.
Hi, everybody. Dallas Brody here. Well, this whole situation with the Vancouver School Board has got me digging a little bit into what they're doing when they're not canceling scary people like me from having town halls in the auditoria of the high schools in my riding. I've been digging in a little bit. And guess what our school board is busy doing these days? You won't even believe this. The first thing they've got is a school renaming committee. And listen to some of the names they're giving to our schools now. Sir Matthew Begbie Elementary School has been renamed to Wakastaka Wakasekam. It looks like that. Weska Asekewam. That's the new name of Sir Matthew Begbie Elementary School. Then we've got Saanich Indian School Board has been renamed to the Wassanak School Board. And the new school is called Skinak. Oh, and my personal favorite is the high school I went to that was called Point Grey Secondary School, is now called Point Grey Stewatanza. Stewatan. Those are the new names of these schools. I wonder how many hours went into the committee that was formed to come up with these.
Okay, and you can pause it, and then
names.
you can look up that other article, and then I'll talk a little bit about Dallas Brody, why I put it in the Alberta personality section, and talk about this renaming, not just of schools. This is going on across the nation, and they are trying to simultaneously erase the history of Canada while they lean into the history of Canada, calling Albertans traitors for trying to save Western culture. First of all, I put Dallas Brody in the Alberta Personalities section because she's really opening up the Overton window within British Columbia. Normally, if you would talk about stuff like this, they would call you a racist and a million other names. They're still going to try to call her that, but with personalities like her, Maxime Bernier, a lot of other people that are opening up the Overton window, it gives a lot of covers for a lot of the issues being talked about within Alberta independence, and it's really hard for the federal government to frame us as racist or whatever else names they want to call us. Exactly. A lot of the names that they're renaming these schools to are almost impossible to say, let alone type. There's not even keys on a modern keyboard to type a lot of these names, which are causing a lot of problems for British Columbia residents, because mainly it's happening in British Columbia, but it's being adopted across the nation slowly. A lot of people one case particular that we covered maybe about a year ago. The gentleman wasn't able to pay his mortgage because the bank wasn't able to send him mail to his address because they weren't able to type the address on a modern keyboard, which is absolutely freaking crazy.
Yeah, the street used to be named Trutch. It was Trutch Street, and then they renamed it into something impossible to either
something that was this long as well.
pronounce or type anywhere. So that is the insanity. But and again, I am glad you brought Dallas Brody up because she is one of the few that are speaking up about this within British Columbia, even though I do unfortunately think for now, because of the cities, that insane loony bin is a little bit too lost.
Yeah, and we have an interview coming out on Sunday with Maxime Bernier. We did yesterday. I actually asked him about Dallas Brody, his opinion of that, and his view on private property rights being stripped in Canada. It was very interesting, his response. So
yes, but I now have that Jason Levine post that Todd. Hold on. That's Stephen Jensen. Sorry, not Todd. Stephen Jensen.
I will say, Dallas Brody's little clips are getting better. I like how she's adding little memes in there as well. Because she can be very, very intense, and I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn over time to try to relax, and I'm nowhere near that.
He's still learning. Let's just say that. You just saw how he reacted. Stephen Jensen says Jason Levine posts Elections Alberta statement that no data breach has occurred.
Whoa.
And this is what Stephen Jensen meant. Jason Levine says, quote, update. And again, this doesn't really have to do with the Alberta Personalities segment, but we brought it up. Elections Alberta has named the Republican Party of Alberta as the alleged source for some or all of the data being used by the Centurion Project. In earlier posts, I was using information I received directly from two sources that contradicted the statement by Thomas Lukasik. In light of this new information released by Elections Alberta and provided to the court this morning, I retract my statement that Thomas Lukasik is lying. Instead, I will say his statements are unproven. This is a developing situation and there is an active investigation. Everyone should be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, so we have to wait for a little bit more information and give it a little bit of time. So thank you for Jason Levine for giving updates on that. And thank you for everybody on the ground that are giving updates, because it really helps shows like this kind of disseminate the information, whether it's what went on in that situation or to try to get a presence to come out on Monday when we submit the petition signatures.
And I will also say I do prefer usually to wait to be able to analyze a story or a source or a thing. Sometimes, in this case, I mean, it was just an update on what was happening, but many people, unfortunately, do run to the camera, like John Bolton was saying on our interview with him, and then maybe sometimes don't correct the information. We always put corrections down in the comment section if we do get something wrong during a live.
And we make a lot of mistakes, not a lot of mistakes, but when we do make mistakes, we definitely try to correct them, and we try to correct them in quick fashion. We do a show twice a day. It's quite a lot. We do one at noon and one at 5. So we're not going to get everything right every time. I'm literally gathering stories for hours in the morning to put these shows together. We try to recheck them right before we go on the air in case there was some kind of misinformation, and we catch most of it. But once in a while, something will slip through.
Yes. Anything else on Dallas Brody for you?
No.
Okay.
Only that she is the only politician within British Columbia really speaking up against private property rights, and she has been doing it for a long time. Other conservatives are now trying to jump on the bandwagon. These are the same conservatives that signed off on these things, and we're doing land claims for the last decade.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Alberta, you have the chance to rid yourself of all of this. But also, speaking of, Maxime Bernier says, our time will come in Canada. Love the optimism, but in Alberta for sure.
Oh, you need to read the whole article,
Yes, and Don
please.
Keith says, Germany's right-wing AfD just exploded in West Germany state elections, surging 11 points and nearly doubling their seats. Voters are rejecting mass Islamic migration and taking their country back.
Yeah, and there are multiple independence movements kind of popping up within the EU, or at least sediments of it. We're seeing stuff happen in Ireland. If Germany separates
from the European Union,
which the AfD has stated that's something that they want, this would be huge. It's the economic core that holds all of Europe together. I'd like to see Bernier not only support Alberta independence, which he came out firmly and said he does, but he also supports Quebec, Saskatchewan, as well as Germany over here. So it's fantastic to see some politicians now feel like they have enough cover to kind of speak up and support independence movements.
And not mince their words.
And not mince their words.
Okay, now we'll go into your comments and then we'll move on to Alberta's Canada, which is the next segment. And it's just more reasons for Alberta to become independent, honestly. But before that, thank you so much, Real Steven Jensen, saying for the $2 super chat, saying also she was jailed in Lethbridge for talking. The professor or Dallas Brody?
No, the professor, not Dallas Brody. A lot of people get the two characters confused.
Interesting.
I think.
Maybe.
Or maybe Dallas Brody was jailed as well. And I just don't know about
I
it.
didn't know about that either. But Steven Jensen, don't super chat again. But let us know which one you meant, and we could talk about that as well. Sven de God says, those were Edmonton police units that showed up. I didn't see RCMP in the pictures. Police, basically. James B says, yes.
Well, there is a big difference, and we
Yes,
do
I know.
need to define between RCMP and Edmonton police. So if it was Edmonton police, we'll make the correction later. I'll check afterwards.
Oh, I thought you were doing it now. Okay, James B says, yes, 100% more people need to ditch the grocery monopolies and buy from farmers directly. Yes.
Yeah, but it has to be made possible. The government, not only in Canada, but the United States, as well as the EU, is trying to globalize the food chain. They want to invest heavily in corporations that are doing slaughterhouses, livestock, stuff like that, rather than small regenerative farms. We need a ton of decentralized small regenerative farms that can then sell food at local farmers market. And these things need to be organized, and there needs to be benefits financially for the community, meaning no taxes on locally bought foods.
Yes. Oh, and I think, sorry, hold on. I did miss, where is it? It didn't show up for some reason. But Real Steven, oh yeah, I did. Real Steven Jensen, thank you again for the $2 super chat. I think I didn't read saying it's posted on his X account. So thank you for that. Escape from Canada says, thank you for explaining. I guess I missed your discussion on this. This was a while ago. We've been talking geopolitics and specifically about China and the CCP for years now.
Oh, we talked about it yesterday in depth. Yesterday's, I think it was Night's episode. Oh God, I brought his name up again. Harrison Faulkner. He did another great report today on a book that was banned that's now unbanned that really talks about immigration into the West and from the 1970s. We'll play it on tomorrow's episode, but him and Juno News had some great reporting on some whistleblowers in the military that came out to talk about Chinese infiltration of the Canadian military and Canada in general. And we need more whistleblowers in Canada, especially right now while Alberta's trying to get its independence. If anybody's thinking about being a whistleblower inside of the government or inside of the Canadian military, now is the time.
Yes, and we also have, if you're ever interested, a bunch of videos, all edited videos also on our channel, talking specifically about China, Canada, CCP, etc., that are from a while ago.
Yeah, I used to put Xi Jinping and Winnie the Pooh on the cover because they banned Winnie the Pooh in most of China. They don't like Winnie the Pooh over there because everybody makes fun of Xi being Winnie the Pooh.
Looking like Winnie the Pooh.
But man, when you put Winnie the Pooh and Xi on a thumbnail cover, it automatically gets throttled.
Yes. Todd says, hey guys, just got back from pouring a driveway and laying some bar.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for being here. Hopefully you get to rest a little bit now, at least. James B says, other countries in the world work just fine with that system, Canada included, just need to research what people did back in the day. I'm guessing talking about the...
regenerative farming, maybe?
No, I'm guessing the political system. What Renew Alberta is advocating for.
Yeah, I'm generally against Renew Alberta, but I'm happy to have their voice within the space so we can kind of percolate different ideas. I'm also very happy to have Bruce Party in the space. I actually really like a lot of Bruce Party's ideas. It seems like the mainstream of thought right now when it comes to the Constitution is a 1776 version of the American Constitution with some slight improvements. I'm also for that. I think a lot of this is going to have to be worked out after the Alberta independence vote.
And I think it's better the more discussion and debate there is around these issues, with all the different ideas being able to come to the forefront, but also those engaged citizens that do want to participate, and encouraging more engaged citizens to participate in these discussions. You don't want it to be just a group of XYZ people making those decisions, because that's the way it's been forever. And that's part of the problem with Canada.
And once Alberta does get its independence and we go into these meetings for the debates on how we want to form the Constitution and stuff like that, I really hope Freedom Calendar and others are going to live stream all the events and nothing's going to be behind closed doors, because we need to start the founding of the nation off with radical transparency.
Yes. But yeah, I'm not a super fan of the parliamentary system either. Todd says, nice haircut guy, looking sharp and classy, man. in the middle between the noon show and this one, he went to get a haircut.
Usually I took it, and then I took a small nap, but I was almost late for the show.
You needed to sleep a bit. Well, maybe that's why you're all frazzled right now. Escape from Canada says, I'd love to buy land and make a small farm in Alberta, but will not invest in Canada.
Yeah.
And we would love to maybe do that too eventually as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people that are going to migrate to Alberta either before or after want to start homesteads and things like that. So it's going to be very interesting kind of what happens with the demographic of the new country once it's formed.
Yes. Todd says, freedom honey only. Yeah, exactly. From the source. Todd Talks, hello, says, howdy again, Nat and Guy. Hello, thank you for being here. Chocolate says, First Nations didn't have schools, written language, science, or even the wheel. This is stupidity. And these are the new ways of knowing, or the old ways of knowing, I guess, depending on what they call them.
Well, let's go back before the wheel and see how things turn out for us.
300 mile per hour martyr says, sillier than Monty Python, who would have ever thought? And that is what it's getting to in at least British Columbia, but in a bunch of other provinces. And maybe these ideas are also percolating within some insane people within Alberta as well. So you have to be aware that it's happening elsewhere, because sometimes they're very quick with these insane ideas and trying to implement it, maybe even before Alberta becomes an independent nation.
Yeah, these ideas don't just come out of nowhere.
No.
These are being pushed, and there's a lot of money behind a lot of these ideas. They quietly enact them into law, let them sit there for a while, and then quietly set the precedent on a case they think nobody's going to notice. Once the precedent is set, they then expand it out from there. Private property rights are being stripped within BC, but they're being stripped globally as well. The exact same game plan with the exact same law called DRIPA from the UN has already been implemented in Chile, Central America countries, European countries. It's not just happening in Canada. This is a coordinated effort. We need to wake up as a people. When we're voting for independence from Canada, we're also voting for independence from the globalists.
Yes. Escape from Canada says, LOL, British Columbia needs to be renamed to something Indigenous too. What a joke. That's one of the biggest ironies as well. I think there have been proposals also, I remember when we were living there, of changing the name British Columbia because of its imperialist, colonialist, blah, 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 implications. It never really went anywhere. But now, as we continue to see this push and them accelerating the push into schools as well and universities. And I remember both SFU and UBC in Vancouver renamed a bunch of things towards this inexplicable, unintelligible language. So I wouldn't put it past them, now that the NDP is in, trying to rename the whole province as well.
Yeah.
John Odd says, my question is, what happens if the referendum is unsuccessful? What would be the goal? The standard of living will keep dropping with no sign of change or real plan.
Yeah, well, we have to focus, and this is why we do a show twice a day. This is why we're 100% committed every single day, 7 days a week. I'm researching, getting shows ready so we can disperse information. This is why we're doing a ton of interviews. It's a lot of work to especially reach out to so many people because we're such a small channel. I get a lot of rejections before I have somebody willing to accept an interview. I am completely committed to this Alberta referendum and the vote for independence, because if this thing doesn't work out, I dread to think of the consequence. I already voted for my independence. I'm not going to get a lot of the benefits if Alberta does become its own independent country, but I am 100% behind it. I think we're going to see a lot of national Canadians and a lot of people from Alberta flee the country of Canada if Alberta doesn't get its independence. But if Alberta does get its independence, we're going to see a lot of national conservative Canadians flock to Alberta. That want to save Western culture and Western values, because Canada has made the complete pivot to China at this point.
And again, if it fails, it won't. But if it fails, if Alberta independence does fail, and as you mentioned, the referendum is unsuccessful, it's not just unsuccessful for Alberta, it's not just unsuccessful for Canada. I would say for the whole Western world that will continue to be looking at Alberta as that spark of hope, as they did for the Freedom Convoy, it will also be a blow. But I mean, I hope it might encourage others within maybe the European Union to separate even faster or to push for more independence of their own. But let's hope it does. But it's not unsuccessful.
But it's not going to do that, and that's the problem, because the federal government's game plan is to make sure this doesn't make it outside of Canada, and that's why I'm trying to reach out to so many American content creators and international ones. We need the story to get outside of Alberta, so no matter what happens, these ideas start percolating in other parts of the globe. globe, like the EU, that's currently having their sovereignty taken from them.
Well, Norman says, hope Danielle Smith plays her cards right in the next couple of days, or she could be in hot water with citizens. The double standards are insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope she speaks up for it. I will say this, though. If this ideological judge keeps staying this question, we're going to need Danielle Smith. So we don't want to isolate her and push her away from the movement now, because she is the one figure we need more than ever. In case that judge keeps staying that question, we need Danielle Smith to not only open the door to Lukaszik's question, she's going to have to rephrase that question and push for it. She's going to be in hot water when she does that. And she's already up to her neck in it right now. So Danielle Smith is actually the most interesting figure within Alberta. We also need her once the independent vote goes through. She's the figure that can either negotiate with National Canada or step aside, but she naturally goes into that role. She's in the most interesting role of everybody in Alberta right now, and we don't want to push her away from the movement. We do want to call her out when it's time to call her out, and we should start putting pressure on her now, and we should do it in a polite and civil manner, because the other side isn't doing that to her.
No. And also, again, she could be the one to make history. And I think it's also important to always say she could be the one to make history by following democracy and by letting democracy be and present itself as it should, instead of continuing with the or allowing the attacks to continue.
Yeah.
Todd says, made a nice driveway today. Me and my homie Raven. Finishing concrete is hard. I bet you.
Well, especially in cold weather. In hot weather, I think it's a lot easier as well, because the drying conditions are kind of set up for it.
And Todd also says, I'm still learning how to stay calm too, guy. LOL. Slowly but surely.
If you had a wife like this,
you'd be even calmer. Stephen Jensen says, Jeff Rat, thank you so much for the $5 super chat.
Thank you.
Says, Jeff Rat spoke to Shadow Davis about new constitution being worked on and how the new government could be structured and elected. It's on his Facebook page. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I really hope those meetings and anything that's done with the Constitution is filmed right from the beginning, and it's 100% transparent for the entire public to see.
300 mile per hour martyr says, quit worrying about Smith. She can't side with anyone until we deliver her a strong mandate of the direction we want her to pursue. The ball is in our court, not hers, not yet. I will say she is the one that can let democracy be.
Well, and that's why we need to have a strong mandate. You worded it very good, nicely there.
Yes.
And that's why when we deliver this petition on Monday with all these signatures, the amount of signatures, one, is going to send a message, and I think we have more than Lukaszik's. That's going to be my guess. But number two, the amount of people that show up that day to deliver that petition, it's going to be all over social media if we have thousands of people there. So,
Dara Robinson says, Stephen Jensen is correct. Elections Alberta website states there has been no breach of Elections Alberta's databases or systems.
Fantastic.
Good to know. Edward says, and kicked her out of their party. Not sure about that one. Taltalk says, 300, very true, but many seem to enjoy letting their imagination run wild. And I will concur with that, Tal, as well.
Yeah, I think emotions are running extremely, extremely high on this thing. I'd say especially on the side of Alberta independence, because the federal government is really starting to push and turn up the temperature now, whether it's the mainstream media trying to do hit pieces on different independence content creators, whether it's what happened with the Albertans Garage and stuff like this. I mean, going after people's children at this point. I'm talking about Igor. I mean, it's only just beginning, and we have to take countermeasures here. If you have a home, if you have a vehicle, if you have a business, make sure you have cameras on all three, so we can prosecute these people when things like this happen.
Exactly.
Especially if you're outspoken within the independence movement.
Then we're seeing we already know what the true colors and true natures of the other side is. We saw it during the canvassing period as well. But I think we'll continue to see more mask off, true face moments as they ramp up their own campaign as well.
Okay, let's
go into Alberta's Canada. I'll continue reading your comments after that segment. But yes, we name it Alberta's Canada because Alberta is the only thing that is still propping up Canada. And as soon as Alberta becomes independent, Canada will continue to crash and fail.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And starting with CBC watchers saying, quote, Torontonians pay up to turn homes into bunkers. But police say this year they're on track to see more home invasions than 2025. Great.
This is a crazy amount of home invasions that's happening now. This is becoming normal business in Canada. I think a lot of it has to do with mass immigration from people from other cultures where they just don't have the same moral values and things like this. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely out of control. We need to stop mass migration. It's not to say we can't have migration. We need migration to plug the holes, but the ultimate goal of migration is to have no migration eventually, because we can reproduce our own population and bring our own birth rates up and train our own people within the positions that we need.
Well, home invasions are on the rise in Toronto, and some residents are going to great lengths to secure their properties. Angelina King shows us one homeowner who's spending thousands of dollars just to feel safe.
In the middle of the night in Toronto, violent intruders threatening murder.
I'll kill you.
Pause it.
I'll kill you.
Yeah, this isn't happening in Texas, and this isn't going to happen in the new country of Alberta. Firearms ownership for self-defense and the defense of your property 100% is justified.
And they can't say the quiet part out loud, which is that they're trying to strip citizens from their ability to defend themselves, and yet they want to say, oh no, crime is going up, and also not talk about who's committing those crimes.
What am I supposed to do? Call the police? By the time the police come, my wife's either going to be dead, the property's going to be taken from me, and I'm going to be the victim. You need to have the right to defend yourself with a firearm, especially in your own home.
Over car keys.
It's absolutely horrifying. We really have a problem, and it needs to be addressed before things get much worse.
In 2024, Toronto saw 149 home invasions, a 10-year high. That dropped to 93 last year, but police say this year they're on track to see more home invasions than 2025. Riley Mulvihill says she's taken matters into her own hands, spending around $20,000 on security, adding cameras, metal bars.
We need to invest more money in security so we can call the cops where we're already victims by the time they come. Put more regulations, give the government more control. Why don't we take self-ownership through firearm ownership and use to protect your own individual property? Why? Because the Liberal government will never allow that to happen. They're using high crime rates to bestow more power into themselves and into the federal government.
Yep. Further power and control.
To windows, reinforcing doors, creating a panic room, and this. An alarm triggered if anyone steps foot on her property at night. After a previous security incident, her house was already souped up with security, including with window film, which makes glass much harder to break.
It absolutely is what stopped them, slowed them down.
Do you know what would have stopped them? A gun.
Bullets is what's going to stop them. Window film? Window film? What happens if that window film, they actually still get through it, or one of your windows doesn't have it? You need something that is an equalizer, especially for a woman when a man is invading your home. Okay, you can leave it there.
And again, they will continue to vote for their retarded policies they do because they clearly are and continue to want to be willingly blind and retarded.
Yeah. And this next clip's pretty shocking.
Of course, it's in Toronto. Sorry.
This next clip is shocking as well. It's the Bank of Canada coming out, speaking pretty frankly at the direction Canada is going. And it's like even the Bank of Canada is now carrying water for Alberta independence. These are some of the best reasons for Alberta to separate.
Shazi says, quote, this is the clip everybody needs to watch from the Bank of Canada. They just laid it out clearly. Oil prices are rising, pushing inflation back up. Canadians already getting squeezed on gas and food. At the same time, the job market is weakening. And they don't want to have a deal with the U.S. I'll just add on top of that.
Well, and when the Bank of Canada is making statements like this, they're typically very conservative in their statements. So it's far worse than what they're even saying.
Mm-hmm. We have three key messages today. First, Canada is being buffeted by global events and geopolitical uncertainties, but our economy is growing, and we expect it to continue to grow. Second, after more than a year with inflation close to the 2% target, higher global energy prices are pushing inflation up.
Yeah, but let's hold on a minute. Thank you so much, Stephen Jensen, for the $5 super chat saying, I find it harder and harder to even care about Canadian politics. It's all lies and gaslighting. We know the country is gone. Sleep in the bed you make. And I fully agree with that. But these are all just great ways to advertise Alberta independence as well.
Yeah, I'm actually completely the other. I was completely black-pilled on national politics. I didn't even want a section of national Canadian politics as it relates to Alberta, but it's probably the most important section. And the enemies of Alberta independence, being these national politicians, are the most important figures. Why? Because the national news, as well as these national politicians that are all against Alberta independence, are literally carrying water for us when they talk about the direction of Canada, when they talk about the economic future of Canada, when they talk about everything that's going wrong with Canada. It allows us to focus on the positive vision of what we want inside a new Alberta, while the national politicians and the news can focus on the negative aspects of Canada as a whole. That way we don't have to talk as much about it. We still need to talk about it, but it's always best when we talk about it to highlight their own words. And that's why I like to see the Bank of Canada and Polyev kind of pointing all this stuff out for me.
Exactly. And Stephen Jensen, again, thank you so much for the $2 super chat, saying that film on Windows is called Ballast Film. You know what would be more useful? Actual ballistics that you can wield against those that attempt to intrude you. But thank you for the
Well, I'm not against the film, but the film's only going to last so much, and on a bigger window, you're still going to be able to get through that film. Yeah. You need that film along with a firearm to protect yourself in case the thieves don't just run away when a little siren goes off.
Yes, exactly.
And it's very likely a lot of these intruders are going to have weapons themselves, being firearms. So the only real equalizer at that point is a firearm.
The illegal ones that they are not going after. They're going after the legal gun owners, but not the ones that obtain them illegally, because that would make way too much sense. Do you want to keep watching the Bank of Canada?
We'll play a little bit more, and then we'll go into the next story.
The surge in gasoline prices, combined with still elevated food price inflation, is squeezing more Canadians. And third, monetary policy is focused on ensuring that the jump in energy prices does not turn into persistent inflation, while helping the economy adjust to global headwinds. We are committed to keeping inflation low and stable over time. On a trois messages clés. Premièrement, même si le Canada est secoué par des événements internationaux,
don't want to listen to you.
Okay, and I will say this. Alberta really needs to think about global oil supply versus national oil supply. There should be a certain percentage of oil that comes out of the ground, as well as natural gas, as well as minerals, that have to stay in Alberta and aren't subject to the global price, meaning there's a sit price for Alberta, so Albertans benefit from that. So they never have high gas prices. So they never have high natural gas prices or mineral prices as well for stone construction and concrete construction. We want to build an internalized infrastructure of self-sufficiency. And we have an abundance of oil, natural gas, and stone. And we can make sure there's a small enough population where 1% needs to stay within Alberta, and it's sit at a fixed price for internalized infrastructure.
Stephen Jensen, thank you so much for the $2 super chat again, saying, just got my pal Fafo at my place now, or F around and find out at my place now. Good. And you got a pal one too.
I had my firearms slightly before we left Canada, and I never got a firearm. It was just too much of a freaking headache. And I'm still getting emails to this day down here in Mexico saying, turn in my weapons, turn in my weapons. I don't even have a freaking weapon. Get off my back.
Yes, exactly. But Global News says, quote, Tory MP Giovanni returns to Washington to meet with U.S. trade rep. One person doing it, but
one person doing it, and absolutely crazy. I mean, we have elbows all the way up our own asses in federal Canada at this point. I'm glad to see he's doing it. He's got a relationship with JD Vance as well. I want the best for Canada as a whole once Alberta does separate, but I don't care what they do. Alberta needs to separate at this point. I think Jamil Giovanni and Pierre Poilievre are great figures in national Canada, for national Canada, not for Alberta. Alberta wants to make changes far greater than these politicians can ever make, because they just don't have enough political will behind them, and the structure is actually rotten to the core itself.
And that goes back to the initial questions that we were kind of talking about, the parliamentary system. You can't, I mean, their hands are tied. And as I always say, even if they got in with a majority, if the Conservatives got in with a majority, it would take generations to actually make a change, implement the change, and see the change through. At which point, you might as well think it's all lost. Okay, let's go to your comments.
Oh, no,
Before
we have one more. We have one more.
Oh, yes, we
article.
do. Sorry. Let's go to this one first before we go to
The
your
Chihuahua.
comments. Yes. National Post says, quote, industry leaders are sounding the alarm on self-inflicted rules, killing investment and productivity, writes Adam Pankratz.
And everybody knows this, but again, I'm glad when it gets brought up to a national audience so people understand why Alberta is voting for independence, because Canada is voting for self-destruction every day with every policy, with every regulation.
And we were also playing a lot of those committee meetings that they were having with industry leaders that were telling them to their faces, we only have about 6 months where we can survive under the current situation and under what Carney and the Liberals have put us in.
Well, and a lot of these committee meetings, we showed it today as well as yesterday, they're just turning the cameras off now. They don't want this stuff to be clipped. It's not because there's sensitive information in there. It's they literally don't want the clips being broadcast by shows like this.
Exactly. But now we will go to your comments. 300 mile per hour. Martyr says, Smith is not the leader of the Bloc Albertois. True, but she is the one that can, again, decide to let democracy do its thing.
At every stage, when you really game plan out the future, Danielle Smith is going to be an absolute pivotal role, not just once or twice, but time and time again. We need to not push her away or isolate her from Alberta independence. It doesn't mean we have to be overly nice to her. When she muddies the water, we called her out with the 9 questions. She unmuddied the waters and came back around. Also, when the ideological judge came up and stayed the stay free question, she opened a door to Lukasik's question, which isn't the best solution, but at least it's something. So we have another path other than just giving up or saying, what are we going to do at this point? Yeah. She is opening doors when doors are shutting on Alberta independence. And when independence is actually voted for and we get the founding of a new nation, she becomes the most pivotal figure because she's the one negotiating with federal Canada at that point or stepping aside. So...
And Edward says that was Francis Whittlestorm. Yeah, that was a professor that got arrested.
And that's what I thought. And we've reported on that the last few days. And she was going to a lot of BC universities and colleges in protest, having normal conversations that should be allowed about the mass grave hoax. I think that was one of the first times she came to Alberta. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times... I know she's going to get arrested. And I know a lot of the things that happen across national Canada, but I'm still shocked when it happens in Alberta. You think that's the safe haven of Canada, and it's really not at this point. That's why pretty soon we're not going to have the critical mass to vote for Alberta independence. Yeah. That's why we need to push so hard right now until October 19th. And that's why my life is basically committed to it until that date. And after that date, hopefully we get our independence and we can show the founding of a new nation and bring transparency to Alberta.
Yes, and remove Alberta from the insane asylum that is Canada. Escape from Canada says, I was surprised to discover that Max Bernier lives in Florida. He has to, basically, kind of.
Well, I was surprised too, but I knew they were trying to prosecute him at one point, and he breaks a lot of laws, especially under speech laws within Canada. So he is subject to arrest. I have a feeling that's probably why he went out there. I know that's not everybody's opinion, but there was threat of arrest through Maxime Bernier. We didn't ask him about that because I actually didn't know that at the point of the interview. I found it out after when I was watching The Fringe. I know The Fringe is quite hard on Maxime Bernier. I like him because he opens up the Overton window and it's acceptable to talk about a lot of things that we're talking about in independence now.
And as a politician as well. Teletalk says, and he did it like before Pierre did it, he did it before a lot of the other ones that then followed suit, but too little too late.
Well, and a lot of the PPC people did move down to Florida, Viva Fry and some others as well. Viva Fry was actually running within the PPC at one point. So they need a complete restructuring of that party. They lost bad in the last federal election, but having these 3 years might be good for them overall, especially if Alberta separates and then Quebec separates. If Quebec separates, that completely changes the seat count within Canada and makes it a very, very conservative country.
True. Teletalk says, it came up a lot during the last federal election.
Oh, what was that?
What did? I don't know. Again, YouTube is being weird and it's hiding comments from me. Where were we? Okay, I'm trying to find your other comments so I can read them together.
Let's just keep on with the comments if we can. Okay. I don't want you to keep going back because it's going to be Too much dead air.
Lal Norman, oh, he's really afraid of dead air. Lal Norman says we need to.
Well, there's a lot of dead air up here.
Yeah, that is true. There's enough over there that we don't need it in the show. Lal Norman says we need mom and pop shops again. Yes, don't want to date myself, but I remember the old hardware stores and no big box stores. Funnily enough, here in Mexico, we still do have a lot of technically kind of mom and pop shops.
These countries invite this in. I mean, corporations, all the tax loopholes, all the benefits are given to big corporations. That's why they're able to push small mom and pop shops out of the way. We need intergenerational wealth. We need ways to build that. All the tax incentives should benefit small family businesses and decentivize corporations. If corporations can't survive on their own, they don't need to survive, period. The reason they thrive and survive so well is because the federal government shows so much favoritism towards them through tax laws. Even during the Jibby Jab era, they were shutting down the mom and pop stores, or they were leaving the big box stores open, and it became very transparent what was happening at that point.
Exactly. Smile to Life Every Day says he is a great reporter, Harrison Faulkner.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Anyway, so he's a nationalist that's not in favor of Alberta independence. That being said, he does fair reporting, and he doesn't mince his words. And all we can really ask for is fair reporting on both sides of the situation. He held a debate with Jason Kenney and Bruce Party. It was a fantastic debate. Before that debate happened, he made a little opener saying he's a nationalist. He doesn't want to see Alberta separate. But that was a fantastic debate, and he's reported very, very fairly to this point. I like
Bruce Party?
No, Mr. Faulkner. I forgot his first
Harrison
name.
Faulkner.
Harrison
Mr.
Faulkner.
Troglodyte says.
And again, I'm going to play one of his clips tomorrow because he did a very, very interesting report on a banned book that's now become unbanned.
Troglodyte says Winnie was named after Winnipeg. Smile to Life Every Day says another great spokesperson for Alberta independence is Kathy Flett. It would be nice to see both if you interview her. Yes.
Yeah, we got a list of 15 people. We're supposed to start reaching out to them tonight. We've been backed up a lot. We've been really, really busy lately. And she's one of the people on the list. She recently followed us as well, so we have access to message her directly. So that's going to be fantastic, hopefully.
So working on it. Di Robinson says, audit Tommy donations for his petition, 3 to 100,000. There is receipts.
There's all kinds of funny business going on with that Luke Hasek character. But I will say this. It's a good thing that he was there because that might have to be the question that goes forward.
Jay Smoke says or asks, Bruce Party rocks and he has some great points on Alberta independence. And I do like that he has, that he fleshes those out and wants to flesh out the ideas and wants to look at it from kind of 0.0 up to where it could get. I'm a bit more conservative. I'm not that libertarian, so I don't agree with him on some points, but yes. And then asks, do either of you know why Rath hates him so bad?
Yeah, they had a debate. Actually, I didn't know that either. I was like, why does Rath hate him so much? Because I watched Bruce Party with, I started researching Bruce Party after that debate he had with Kenny. And I said, why does Rath freaking hate him so much? Because it kept coming up.
I discovered the debate and sent it to you.
Yeah, they had a freaking debate and Jeff Rath was going off on him. It's a fantastic debate. I actually liked to watch it at the time. But a lot of people have come around to a lot of Bruce Party's thinking on that. Bruce Party caught a lot of heat after that debate from Jeff Rath because he was talking about specialty groups and classes and how it creates fissures in society and it's not good. But I really do like a lot of what Bruce Party has brought in. I'm more of I would say a populist conservative. Populist conservatism has brought in a lot of libertarian thought, a lot of the good of libertarian thought, and left a lot of the bad stuff out. So yeah, I think you're more of a traditional conservative.
I don't know if I would say traditional per se, but at least in the political current of thought of conservatism, yes.
Yeah, but what Bruce Party is suggesting, a lot of it is a complete paradigm shift between the government and the citizen and putting the citizen in charge, which I actually like a lot of his suggestions more than anybody else. I know they don't have mass support at this point. The 1776 U.S. Constitution seems to have the most support. I'm willing to have the debate out, and I kind of want to see all the ideas kind of come to the surface.
And talk to each other.
Bruce Party has really represented his side fairly well at this point, though.
Yeah. That is true in that sense. I do agree. As Austin WWW says, no point in even calling 911. Luckily, in terms of land claims, treaties protect Alberta from having the same issues here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no point in calling 911.
Yeah, you might
And that's the way they want it.
You might commit hate speech against the intruder coming in your house, and
Exactly.
if you have the wrong color of skin, the police are going to arrest you when they get there.
Todd says, spit, guys, spit. Way to say, buddy, wake up, people. Charlie Knight says, Austin, they will go after those treaties to nullify them. Nothing is safe under communism. And we have spoken about that and about the potential. I don't know if within Alberta they have enough time to be able to try and even attempt to do so. And they've already received heat with the injunction that is on a stay right now. But for others, yes, they could come out and say, and they've already started to posit this idea that the treaties were signed under duress, or that the people signing them didn't understand what they were signing, so that they're null and void.
And that's too nice the way she's put it, often the way she puts stuff. They're going to try to null and void this stuff. Canada is becoming communism. If Alberta doesn't get its independence now and decides to stay part of Canada, you better believe they're coming for those treaties. They're going to say they didn't know what they were signing. They were potentially signing them under duress. We theorized this months ago, and now other academics are coming around and suggesting that's what could be done with these treaties with land that was already ceded. This is why Alberta is so important right now, because the next step is to rewrite those treaties themselves.
And thank you so much to Stephen Jensen again for the $2 super chat, saying up to 1 hour plus for police in rural areas.
Yeah, it's pointless.
And it's sad that they've conditioned people to think that that's, number one, the way it should be, but number two, that they shouldn't be able to even defend themselves in those circumstances.
And you don't need it just for a home intruder. When you live rurally, there's all kinds of wild animals as well. And
other
Sasquatch.
Those would be the other threats, I guess. Austin WWW says that's possible for sure, but Albertans won't stand for it. It will be an interesting time.
We'll see. Albertans don't have to stand for it if they vote for independence. But once the federal government starts taking sovereignty away from provinces and flooding mass immigration into Alberta, the voting demographic completely pivots. You have a critical mass of individuals that will vote for independence right now. It's very important that we push this as hard as we can, because as much as people say they won't accept it, when there's a whole new voter bloc there, we'll see what happens. Oh, wow, $20.
JV Alberta First, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, saying Party spent a lot of time playing devil's advocate. He did a lot of criticizing Rath and Wilson that they weren't interpreting the Constitution correctly, as if they didn't have the experience to do this.
Yeah, there's different sides of the coin. That it did get really heated in the Bruce Party Jeff Rath debate that they did have.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of that sentiment came up, and Bruce Party really got pushed out of the Alberta independence talk for a long time. But I liked he was bringing up some very fundamental questions that were important that we ask.
And
it's not to say you adopt his entire system. It's just saying he was asking the best questions about what do we want in the fundamental first principles.
But particularly on the Rath and Wilson not being able to interpret the Constitution correctly, I think that has been proven completely false if he was initially making those statements, if Party was. And they have been doing, especially, not both of them, but Wilson, when he is able to explain it in a calm, concise manner, has been doing an excellent job to be able to even send those clips to people that might have doubts and fully explaining it and mincing it all out so people fully understand what it is that Alberta independence would be.
Yeah, and I like Jeff Rath and Keith Wilson. Jeff Rath really runs circles around the mainstream media, so much so they won't even invite him on anymore because it's going to get clipped to high hell. Just like in the United States, Donald Trump runs circles around the mainstream media down there. But I will say, when you watch that Party Jeff Rath debate, Party stays cool, calm, and collective, and it's an issue that Jeff Rath was losing his cool in that particular debate. That's why I'm so glad it's Keith Wilson debating Jason Kenney. Not that Jeff Rath doesn't know his stuff, but we need somebody with a completely level head that's just going to absolutely take apart Jason Kenney. Hopefully that's going to be on camera, because if that thing isn't streamed out later or somebody doesn't get footage of that, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
And again, that debate between Bruce Party and Jeff Rath was almost now a year ago. So a lot of things have changed. And I do continue to say it's always good to have different types of spokespeople for Alberta independence. I would say even as Jeff Rath, Keith Wilson, et cetera, to serve even different purposes. Keith Wilson can be doing the debates and doing the calm, collected speaking, and Jeff Rath can be the opposite and the yin to Keith Wilson's yang as well.
And they're dividing.
Because they complement themselves very well.
And Keith Wilson and Jeff Rath are dividing a lot of the legal work between them. So Jeff Rath has done a big favor for Alberta independence in a lot of ways, and so has Keith Wilson. So my hat's off to both those gentlemen.
Yes. And again, I wouldn't agree with Party saying that, and criticizing Rath and Wilson saying that they don't understand the Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. But in that debate, there was names being called back and forth. They were saying...
That's when it stops being productive.
They started slinging mud at each other. It made it interesting and entertaining, to say the least. But I don't know how productive the debate ultimately was.
Real Steven Jensen, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, saying, Chris Scott told me today you did the interview with him. Yes, and we are very grateful to him to have sat down with us. And asks, do you know when you will be posting it? Next Wednesday it will come out. We will start advertising it as the days get closer. This Sunday will be Maxime Bernier and then Chris Scott.
Yeah, and we bumped Maxime Bernier up just because it was such a big name, and we were shocked.
Because he just released that statement on Alberta, so we kind of wanted them to be...
Well, and we were shocked we were even able to get the interview, so we just wanted to get that one out really quick. But then
it's a shorter one, too.
Okay, you can continue on.
And then after that, I guess would be Critical Compass on Sunday.
Yeah,
next
Compass.
Sunday. We also already interviewed Critical Compass.
And then we're putting a lot more requests out there literally tonight after. We have a few more out there. I have a gentleman from the United States. It was really hard to find anybody from the States to interview. So I'm just glad I found somebody to hopefully open up a dialogue. He said he didn't know anything about what's going on in Alberta independence. He'll do a little bit of research and we can just kind of have a dialogue. I'm hoping if I can inform him a little bit, when the issue becomes much bigger in the summertime, he'll start to report on it into an American audience.
But everybody on the Alberta independence movement has been incredibly gracious with their time, with responding to us, and with allowing us to ask them questions and have those interviews, also to highlight them and what their work, what they're doing, etc.
Yeah.
Dal Robinson says Lethbridge University removes Professor Whittleson from campus and alumni cancel $150,000 in donations to university. And that's great to hear. Well, at least somebody's thinking.
Yeah, and I seen that report, and there's a lot of calls for Danielle Smith to do something about this. And this is an 80-20 issue. This is perfect issue for her to pick up and do something about. So...
Troglodyte says, LOL, hot weather concrete sets up faster. It's a chemical reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how it works. But Steven Jensen says Jeff was amazing in court on April 9th. Yes. And we heard heard that.
We reported all about it. And thanks for him for doing that. And he's not just doing a lot of the legal work behind the scenes and actually representing in court, but he's doing a lot of the media. Yeah. And maybe he's doing a little less media these days because he did such a good job at running circles around the mainstream media. I don't think they want to invite him back anytime soon.
Yes,
but
and that just proves the effectiveness essentially that he had, and that they are scared of him, I would say.
Yeah. And when they took a look at him, I thought they took a look at him and Keith Wilson and they say, we'll go with the guy that's a little bit unhinged. We think we can kind of trick him into something, and completely the opposite.
Yeah,
I mean, Jeff Rath ran circles around him, around mainstream media.
And continues to do so. Mike Freedom Honey says, the Freedom Honey farm is extremely well defended. Good to know and good to publicize out there. So don't go after the Freedom Honey Farm or the bees, because the bees are important.
Well, that's important because we reported on a story coming out of, I think it was Florida, where somebody got their beehives taken from them and then sold on the freaking open market. And then the gentleman who it was his beehives was trying to sue to get him back. It was an interesting story. We reported on that quite a while ago, though.
When we were doing geopolitics.
Yeah.
Troglodyte says, to these immigrants, home invasions are just aggressive shopping sprees. They see us as such weak suckers. And again, it's a different, not to excuse it, of course this is not excusable, but this is the issue. It's a different culture with different foundational principles that don't see it the same way as the West does. And until the West understands that point, it'll continue to happen.
A Christian moral foundation, when you have migrants that have a Christian moral foundation as well, it integrates more easily into the society. And this is why you've seen a lot less issues with Mexican Americans immigrating into the United States. And the United States was very lucky to have a demographic of Catholics immigrating into their country. We see the exact opposite in Europe. It's Muslims integrating into a traditional Christian society, and it's mixing like oil and water. It's freaking not.
Edward says Dallas Brody, they kicked her out of the Conservative Party due to her views on Native issues.
Yeah,
that could tell you a lot of things about the Conservative Party.
She's the only one speaking up about it. Now conservatives are trying to jump on board. And I said it earlier in the show, these are the same conservatives that were doing land acknowledgements for the last 10 years that led to the problem of private property rights being stripped. So thank you to Dallas Brody. And she's like one woman with a very small party. But man, my hat's off to her. She's really doing the work, and we need more conservatives to be actual conservatives, not keep going to the left because they want the votes of Ottawa and the Laurentian elites. Alberta's not going to have that problem because we're going to have independence, but I still want the best for national Canada once Alberta does get that independence.
Yes. Rage Against the Machine just says pew pew. And they're taking them away as fast as they can so you can't protect yourself.
Yeah.
Troglodyte says, why is no one paralleling crime rates and the type versus immigration rates and dates?
Well,
because they don't keep that information. Canada tries not to keep that information or release it to the public.
Crime rates and everything else are being completely manipulated. And this isn't just me going off the top of my head. This is stuff, I mean, the amount of news articles I grab on a daily basis. I'll give one example. The MAID program is the 5th leading cause of death within Canada. It's getting massive international coverage, especially the expansion of that program. And the Canadian government is starting to become embarrassed of this program, not because they want to change it, but now they want to cover up the statistics. So what they're trying to do now for next year's MAID statistics is, if somebody requests MAID for hearing loss, it's a hearing loss death. If they request MAID for back pain, it's now written up as back pain or something else. They don't want to classify it as MAID. They want to classify MAID deaths as the reason put on the application for the request. They want to downsize the statistics for MAID, even though they're going to do far more of them next year. I'm sure of it.
And again, they learned during the Jibby Jab era as well how to start manipulating those types of documents and numbers. Jay Smoke says managed decline. Exactly. And it is on purpose.
And this is why people are starting not to freaking trust science. With all this green science and everything else, they're manipulating the outcome that they want so they can funnel money and have corruption in different areas. And this is why people are losing fundamental trust in something like science, which is a damn shame.
Rage Against Machine says electrify your front stoop and zap him. I mean, that's another idea.
Automated machine guns on the top of the house.
YouTube wouldn't like you to say that. Troglodyte says anarcho-tyranny. Yeah, that's where they're heading.
You can have a force field of bees in the front yard.
For
that would work great. And then you get the secondary benefit of getting the honey.
True. Todd Hawk says, we've long been ruled by a uniparty that is only beholden to the donor class.
People are starting to realize it now.
Polls.
People are starting to realize Pierre Poilievre more than willing to start taking off the gloves when he already lost the majority. Yeah. All his interviews he was doing was working. He should have done that in the last election. He didn't want to because it didn't benefit the uniparty. It's time for Alberta independence and no more uniparties.
Edward says it's on terrible. Yep. They'll continue to get terrible. Lip Tears 3 says Dudley Do-Right would have voted for freedom. Steven Jensen says, or correct, it's ballistic film. Yeah. But again, how good can you trust that it will work? And how can you trust that they won't find other ways to get in?
Ballistic film only works on a lot of small calibers. And it's not going to work for an axe and stuff like that. So.
Real Steven Jensen,
it will slow them down. I'm not saying it's not going to slow them down, but often those intruders have firearms themselves. The great equalizer is going to be a firearm, and you have to be secure that you can use it without getting prosecuted by the police for defending your own home.
Real Steven Jensen says, I like Giovanni, good man. And unfortunately, fighting an uphill battle, I would say.
Yeah.
Troglodyte says, pew pew prices sure have gone up. I'd swear Trudeau et al. Had a way to profit from their incremental gun restriction policies. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather used to own the largest gun store in Western Canada over in North Vancouver. at one point he bought 10,000 AK-47s with thousands of rounds. Once that shipment came in, the law had changed, so they outlawed AK-47s. They sent a government worker to his gun store, and they made him melt every single one down. Didn't pay for it, didn't give him any reimbursement or anything. He died broke. It absolutely bankrupted him, and now the federal government's coming after everybody's firearms at this point. It just is just another reason for Alberta to vote for independence,
and proves that this has been going on for way longer than just right now with the gun grab.
And
that they understand how effective and how useful an armed citizenry could be against them.
Yeah.
Talk says, stream is shared to X. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
User, I'm just calling you. User says, not sure why no one is talking about what could happen with the vote in October, because without a backup plan, COVID 2.0 is possible, which would prevent voting in person. I mean, and we don't even have to stretch it that far. We are seeing the federal government fight the Supreme Court's decision about the Emergencies Act.
Yeah, and
being declared unconstitutional.
Before the rumors came out that Carney was going to use the Emergencies Act, I was game planning that he was going to use it probably near the end of the summer. And I thought he would try to build the narrative of foreign interference, and he would try to get national polling on his side so he can separate Albertans from national Canada, so he could justify using the Emergencies Act to really undermine this vote in some way, shape, or form. There's any number of things he can do. The first thing we need to really focus on is getting this question on the October 19th ballot. Focus on what we can control and make sure we start reaching out to international media, national media with inside Canada, outside of Alberta as well as American media. So Carney knows the eyes of the world are going to be on him if he uses that Emergencies Act, and there's a well-informed global public of what's going on in Alberta. And this is a legal pathway that Canada has set out for provinces to get independence. There's nothing illegal about it. There's no justification for the Emergencies Act. But this is why we need to start reaching out outside of Alberta to different media to educate the public what is going to be happening in the summertime.
Yes. Talk says, if you sell your arms correctly, the federal government has no record of the sales.
And did we do Alberta and the World already?
No.
Okay, let's go into that section really quick. And then we'll
got
finish
distracted with all your comments. Thank you so much. Let's go into Alberta and the World, and then we'll finish reading all your comments. And I guess it was good as you were ending with that whole, the world needs to know what's going to be happening in Alberta, so the eyes of the world are on Alberta.
Yeah, and we should be done by about 7. So if anybody wants to go tune into the French, he's going through some hard times right now. They're really starting to target him. So
Western Standard says, quote, federal government to spend billions positioning Canada as a nuclear leader.
And this is just going to be another way to invest billions, line people's pockets like this freaking space program. Mm-hmm. They need to do it. I'm all for nuclear. I love nuclear, but the United States is developing nuclear at a cut rate speed. So is China. And you need to do it through small nuclear reactors. When you look where they want to invest it, they want to invest in these huge 10-year projects where a lot of this money is going to go missing. You need success along the way, and we need accountability along the way. So we know the public knows they can trust you with this kind of development. Mm-hmm. And in 10 years, the technology could completely change. Yeah. Invest in small nuclear reactors. They're quick. I researched them a lot, and what the U.S. is doing, it's very interesting. And
start being able to switch it over and to use, as you switch over, using fossil fuels and oil, which is the most productive, effective thing to actually build and make that change. It can't work with the crazy green policies that they continue to try to push and impose upon everybody, and much less the restrictions that they continue to try to impose on the oil sector.
Yeah.
And especially Alberta.
And I'm all for, especially Alberta, developing its nuclear. It definitely needs to. We need to do it in a transparent and honest way. Start with small nuclear reactors and work our way up. So we're having success all the way along the line, and we're not waiting 10 years for that big nuclear reactor at the very end when they're going to quote us a price of $100 billion and it ends up being trillions of dollars, and politicians had lined their pockets by that point.
Yes, and Dusty Rose says, quote, basically you can sum up the U.S.-Canada dispute as The U.S. says we don't need anything you or anything you provide. We don't need you or anything you provide. Canada says we don't need you either, you dangerously unhinged madman. We need a new world order. And every day Canada gets into deeper debt, is economically weaker, and throwing spaghetti at the wall based on crazy tax and spend ideas.
Yeah, this is not the relationship that Alberta wants with the United States. And once it gets its independence, it can show how true productive trade negotiations and a zero tariff policy on both sides should work. It's an easy negotiation going into this, and Alberta is going to show exactly how easy it needs to be.
And as we get closer to the renegotiation or negotiation of the USMCA, it continues to look worse and worse for Canada.
No, it's not even that. It's not looking worse and worse. It's working just the way Carney wants it to work. He needs a reason that the Canadian public's going to allow him to pivot to China, and the Orange Man allows him to do that. He's intentionally sabotaging his negotiations so he can fall into the arms of China and have Canada do it right along with him. Let's pull the parachute in Alberta, vote for independence, so that doesn't have to be us.
But now we'll go back into your comments. There was only 2 sections on there. John Odds says, Fringe goes hard on Newfoundlanders for leaving Alberta and returning home. Reality is, though, Alberta and Ontario have drained most of Newfoundland's youth. Most Newfoundlanders who go to Alberta have stayed.
Yeah, and Fringe is going to go hard on a lot of people. I mean, he goes hard on Maxime Bernier. I like Maxime Bernier. We're going to have a difference of opinions, but overall, he's the biggest channel within inside Alberta, talking about news, talking about why we need to go towards Alberta independence. So we need to stick together. We're going to have disagreements. Me and John Bolton are going to have disagreements. Me and the Fringe are going to have. Nobody's going to think exactly the same. And it's ridiculous.
You shouldn't want everybody to think exactly the same. That's what the insane liberals do. And that's how they became this hive mind that doesn't use critical thinking. And also, I will continue to say, we know less and we know more. And I always say, use your own critical thinking, your own discernment, look into things yourself. Don't just trust anybody, either on the internet, in person, in books, anywhere. Use your own ability to think and your own critical thinking to make those opinions by yourself as well.
Well, and it's not like I'm not going to watch The Fringe because I disagree with him. I've been watching him for years. He's extremely funny. I really used to love that Macho Man intro he had. I used to watch. That's how I started watching his show. I just want to hear, oh yeah. He's taken it out recently. That being said, he's absolutely fantastic. A lot of content creators within Alberta are absolutely fantastic. We need to build these channels. We need to build the small ones to medium ones, and we need to build the big ones like The Fringe to even bigger, so we can push back against the mainstream media and the federal government. Our content creators are going to be our secret weapon because we don't have to pay for advertising. This is an authentic grassroots movement with people that have either been pushed out of Canada or are being targeted by the federal government and other people within Alberta. So we need to stick together, and we need to focus on the movement and the ultimate goal of Alberta independence.
Exactly. Todd says, love me some Harrison Faulkner. Todd also says he should get on the Alberta side. Harrison, you mean? Yeah, but again, he at least had that debate between Jason Kenney and Bruce Party, and he has been able to report on what's going on in and with Alberta independence, not as the mainstream media does with the pre-planned, pre-baked narrative that will always come down from the federal government on the mainstream media sources, paid-off media. Troglodyte says, look hard at lobbying rules when you separate, otherwise big business will crush the small guys again. And that is, I hope, that is one of the important reasons why we need that citizen engagement and those citizens to be there at the table helping to build a new nation and not just allow the bigger entities to dictate what goes on.
And I'm back.
Talk says, the book Faulkner is talking about in his upload is The Camp of the Saints. I read it in the late 80s and thought, no way, but here we are. Amazon banned it and blew up in their face. And after the backlash, it is back and has become the top of the bestsellers list.
And we're going to bring up that whole report tomorrow. It's shocking. And in the book, he actually plays it down. And what they did when they critiqued the book was saying, oh, that's an impossible situation. And what he suggested was there was 1 million migrants coming into France, and that would collapse France. 1 million migrants is nothing compared to what they're flooding France and every other Western country with. It's far more than that, and it's on a regular basis, and they have legalized it now. So politicians have enough cover to say, oh, we can't get rid of it. It's impossible. What I say to them is, look what what Trump's doing in the United States. He's getting rid of them. And a lot of people say, well, ICE isn't working. Well, it's not the ICE program that's getting rid of the majority of illegal immigrants. What it is the remigration program, where he gives $2,500 to any migrant that goes to an airport and is willing to self-deport either back to their home country or another country that will accept them. And Canada is typically one of those countries that will accept them.
Yes. But thank you so much to Stephen Jensen again for the $2 super chat, saying YouTube is really throttling Fringe and shadow banning him.
Yeah, and we need to stand together as content creators. And again, we're not going to always agree on everything. Now, I happen to agree on Fringe with most things. That being said, we need to stick together, and it's obvious the mainstream media is coming after him, after Igor. They're going after the biggest creators first, and then they're going to quickly go after everybody else. So just like with Mr. and Mrs. Albertan, we need to fundraise for them, stick behind them as well as all the businesses that have come out in public support of Alberta independence.
And also show the power and resilience that is behind the Alberta independence movement, the true spirit of the Albertans that want independence to be able to continue to be the way they are and to help each other and their communities. And these are great opportunities to prove that and show the ugly face of the other side.
Well, and we need to do our best, and it's very hard to stay positive because we're still in a campaign and they want us to get negative, because if we get negative, it's harder to reach the people that are on the fence or on the other side. This is also why I say the national politicians and the national media are carrying water for us, because we don't have to focus on the negative as much because they're focusing on it for us. We can still point it out, which is very important. We do it a lot on this show, but we need to start focusing on the positive vision and the future of Alberta. That's what's going to convince voters that are on the fence or on the other side.
Troglodyte says, police are there to take reports and photos. You're on your own. They're there to take the photos of your corpse, essentially. They're just you call them, and when they get there, they're going to do their job of taking the photo of your corpse. Rage Against Machine says, Max is just another grifter. I'm guessing Maxime Bernier, you mean?
Yeah, and what I say about that is I like the fact that he's opened up the Overton window. Yep. Dallas Brody's doing the same. There's a lot of figures now that are doing that where that never happened. The Overton window was shutting with censorship bills coming in. If we had a narrow Overton window right now, it would be very easy to implement those censorship laws because you're going to have major compliance with the general public. But with the Overton window so blown wide open, it's going to be very hard to get absolute compliance and stuff like that. Also, a lot of the issues we talk about within Alberta independence were not allowed to be talked about before. They would call you a racist and those things would stick. But now with the Overton window blown wide open, it's really hard to paint that narrative for the mainstream media. They're still going to try. It's just not going to stick anymore the way it used to.
I don't know if I'd fully agree that the Overton window has been blown wide open. I mean, we do still see that push and that ability that now they have with the majority to implement those censorship bills. And we do still see the lemmings that only listen to the mainstream media continue to think that that is the way it is. But by allowing and by showing with firsthand, I'm thinking of Max and Dallas Brody and etc., that they are able to say these things, stand up, and at least attempt to speak even before it becomes popular or it polls right, like Polyev always waits to do so. I mean, Max was one of the first, if not the first, to talk about the Freedom Convoy. He was one of the first to talk about the mutilation of children with the whole trans ideology and gender ideology thing. He was one of the first to listen to Billboard Quiz when he was trying to look at find politicians that would speak about this issue. So in that sense, because I do remember those times as well, that is why I do like Max, because he has been at the forefront of giving what he thinks and his opinions before it becomes popular or it becomes a big issue.
The Overton window is blown wide open because they already have hate speech laws and compelled speech laws on the book, which they're failing to implement like the EU and the UK is doing. Yeah, they will prosecute people and arrest people, but they're failing to do it in mass because they know people in general aren't accepting these laws and they don't respect a lot of these laws because the conversation is much more wide open in Canada than it is in the EU and other countries. Now they're going to try to shut that Overton window and bring in more censorship laws through arrest. So that's why it's so important for Alberta independence to move now. You were the first to move. The government is not in the position they wanted to be during this referendum vote, and that's why they may try to use the Emergencies Act and other underhanded tactics.
Yes. Sam says the PPC does not support Alberta leaving Canada. Go to their site and read it for yourself. But Max himself has come out and spoken about it.
Let's continue on.
Real Steven Jensen says, Carney statistic manipulation, just like the budget numbers and state of the economy. And they'll continue to do so as well. Todd says, me and Uncle were talking about that today. How they think they can control the weather with your airplanes, with their airplanes.
Yeah. And that was a conspiracy theorist for the longest time. Now the documents are out there. So.
And I mean, we even saw when we reported on it at the time, Bill Gates trying to create fake clouds that would rain who knows what kind of chemicals down in the UK, which is already cloudy by itself. Jay Smoke says, hit the like button, people. Yes, it really helps us out. Thank you so much. Troglodyte says to Sam, the only way to bring about, it's a quote, the only way to bring about meaningful change under the current government may be to take advantage of the constitutional crisis that would follow a majority vote in favor of the referendum. From the PPC site, says Troglodyte.
Repeat that?
Troglodyte quotes the PPC site saying the only way to bring about meaningful change under the current government may be to take advantage of the constitutional crisis that would follow a majority vote in favor of the referendum of Alberta, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I mean...
That's kind of what he spoke about in the interview.
Yeah, Bernier is also not running within Alberta. I'd just like to see anybody that's going to support not only Alberta independence, but other independence movements around the world, whether it's Quebec. He even came out with that statement within Germany. It gives cover for other politicians to say, maybe I can support it. I won't be the only one. If you're the first politician to come out in support of independence, it can be a career ender. Now, Maxime Bernier doesn't necessarily have the ability to win the prime minister's spot in National Canada, so he can come out with statements like that. And other politicians, it gives them cover to come out in support of Alberta independence as well, hopefully.
And hopefully more do as well.
And I'm hoping Dallas Brody does, because she's in a position where she possibly can, especially when other politicians already have, like Bernier.
And when we were discussing Pierre, we would always say, well, he could use Alberta independence to say, look, a whole ass province wants to leave. They're having a referendum. This is how broken Canada is. They could use it even to their advantage and for their speaking points, but they don't even want to go there, which is embarrassing in my opinion for them.
I was saying Pierre Poilievre should have used Alberta independence as a weapon and took the gloves off, but he never did. He never did it.
Nope. Cindy Melnick says...
Danielle Smith is doing a good job of doing that exact strategy. She still says she's a nationalist against against independence, but that people have grievances, and she's going to let democracy play itself out. And she's using it to get the best deal possible on a national level. Although I don't want that deal, and I prefer independence, she's using the strategy Poilievre should have used.
Yes. Cindy Melnick says, coming in late, did you talk about the Century list and what is happening with the list and what is going on there? We quickly did, and then we brought up an update thanks to Steven Jensen as well. But we'll talk probably more about it tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap the show in just a moment.
Yes, I'm trying to go quickly through the comments.
Yeah.
Sam says, I wrote them and asked if they take 10 seats in Alberta, will they still support Alberta independence? I'm guessing the PPC. Let us know what they wrote back. Jay Smoke says, hit the like button, people. Yes, it really does help. Thank you so much. Steven Jensen says, of course, Brookfield owns Westinghouse and the largest uranium mine. Of course, and they also don't disclose that. And they do own a lot of oil production in the Middle East and other places while they try to stifle Alberta's production itself. And now they're in the US, so they care more about being headquartered in the US too. Troglodyte says, yeah, they don't officially want Alberta or Quebec to leave, but they support your right to do so.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is a good position to have, I would say, and even being able to speak up, as you said, and maybe allowing other politicians to also come to the forefront. Sam to speak. Sam says their response was exactly Smith's stance. They literally said we do not support separation. So they are federalists, so we agree. And now they're fighting. Troglodyte says, will be interesting to hear Bernier's interview Sunday on the matter. Yes, but unlike Pierre, they don't oppose it. Yeah. That's the thing. Mike says, this is my new favorite channel. Keep it up, guys. Hopefully you don't get shadow banned like us. Respect. And hopefully you get unshadow banned and more people go to support you individually so you don't only have to rely on the algorithm as well.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that is another way to do it.
And eventually they're going to come after every single Alberta independence channel. That's why it's important we push back when they come after the Fringe and they come after Igor. And this is just the beginning. It's just starting up. Yeah. They're just turning up the temperature now. And it's okay for people within the movement to have a difference of opinions. We have a bigger purpose here, and it's called the independence and the founding of a nation.
Yeah,
so let's stay focused. Let's stay focused on that, and let's stay focused and realize we're in the campaign season. We need to be convincing people that are on the fence or on the other side of why Alberta independence has a positive vision of the future, and National Canada does not have a positive vision of the future. A matter of fact, if we stick with them, we're tying our carriage to the horse that is going off a cliff.
There is no future. But JP Alberta First, thank you. And thank you so much, Mike, for being here as well. JP Alberta First, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, saying, could be an interesting segment if you were to have some of the unsung heroes in the movement. People not in the spotlight, short live appearances, maybe asking what brought them to the movement. And we have been asking, and again, we encourage any viewer out there that would like to talk to us live, maybe, or even as an interview, or maybe even as an interview, to reach out to natandtheguy@gmail.com or in our DMs on X, because we do and we would love to bring on some of the canvassers, some of the people that were first initially pushing for independence, or maybe they've been wanting this for the longest time. We know there's been some sort of independence movement within Alberta for the past 90-something years. So we would love to interview them. And again, this is another plea. We're not just trying to interview big content creators or people that are already known. We want the unsung heroes to speak up, but we understand that it might be sometimes not beneficial for them to do so if they have other jobs, or as we're seeing the escalation increment.
Okay, continue.
You don't like it when I interrupt you, but you interrupt me all the time.
Go ahead and read your next super chat.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. That again, if you're out there and want to speak with us and want to a space to do so, we are completely open to do that. JP Alberta First, thank you so much for saying keep up the great work, and $2 super chat.
Yeah, and we love reaching out to smaller content creators as well, and we've done that quite a bit. We want to profile smaller content creators, but it's hard because we're one of the smallest content creators within Alberta independence right now. We just reached 2,700 followers. We were able to profile one channel, which was Home with the Homes, an absolutely lovely family from Alberta that is bringing a lot of decentralized thought into Alberta independence and really focusing on the nuts and bolts. So thank you to them. And if you're not subscribed to Home with Homes or any of the people that we have interviewed, I highly recommend. We need to pump up the subscriber numbers of every channel within Alberta independence before the summertime comes.
Yes, but what I was trying to say is, yes, people not in the spotlight, and I fully agree with you, JP Alberta First, for those people, if they want to speak up as well or want their story told, at least this channel is completely open to do
and also we don't do it on live streams because there's just two of us. We don't have anybody off camera or anything that could actually troubleshoot the issues of interviewing somebody live. That's why most of our stuff is pre-recorded. We've had a lot of hiccups come up with trying to interview people remotely as well. And it would have gone really bad if that was live. We never cut anything out though, so.
No. But again, if you want your story told, if you want to talk to us, please do email us at natandtheguy@gmail.com, because exactly, you are the unsung heroes, so we don't really know who you are. So please reach out to us as well.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to cut the show. We're going to go to RUMBLE.
Sam said, okay, hold on. Jay Smoke says, hey, people in the chat, do you know where the like button is? Use it. Yes, thank you so much. Todd says, French was wearing his Trump visor for the other night, and Mike was wearing his Russian comrade toque.
Yeah, I watched that episode.
And Mike, again, thank you for being here. Real Steven Jensen says, great seeing you here. Loved your Forge on Monday, to Mike. And hold on. Jay Smoke says, hit the like button. Thank you so much for that. And we are trying to get to 100 likes per stream. It really does help us out. Todd says, hey, comrade Mike Freedom, can't wait to drizzle your freedom honey on my bacon. Interesting. Silverfeet, thank you so much for being here, and says, gotta go join the Centurion Project meeting. Bye. And good luck on that as well.
Okay.
And, one last one. Jay Smoke says, please people help this channel and hit the like button. And thank you so much for advocating for us and to get to people, for getting people to hit the like button. John Odd says, guy, you need a jar for every time Nat gives you the look.
Yeah, I know. We're going to head over to RUMBLE now. It's 7 o'clock. If anybody does want to go tune into the Fringe, I think he's just about starting. So,
and John Odd says, now you need a jar for every time Guy interrupts. And I just did it there.
I tell you, we have a hard out at 7 every time.
And I don't care. Okay, let's go.
I don't want the shows bleeding together. I want every show to be successful within Alberta independence, period.
Let's move on to RUMBLE. Our username is down here. You can find it there. There's a 30-second wait screen while we get over there. Please don't forget to subscribe as you go and hit the like button too. Thank you so much.
Let's get ready to rumble!